something, like you look at, let's say, like an Instagram feed and all this sort of photos look similar. You're like, oh, I get the whole vibe. I like this. And those seem to be the most successful. But I'm like, here's this crazy thing I made. Here's this crazy thing.
It's time for another episode of Best of the Tour. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite gig posters, tour merch, and the artists who bring it all to life. Let's start the show.
This is episode number 18 of the Best of the Tour podcast. We are sitting down with Daryll Peirce, artist, gig poster artist, painter, illustrator. Daryll, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Great to be with you both today.
Yeah,
thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Just wanted to kind of have a conversation about your life, your work, what you're doing, what gets you out of bed in the morning, the bands you've done work for. I've seen some incredible posters recently for Melvins, for Primus. Of course, you've done stuff for the Rock Poster Society.
Right before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about Colour Haiku. You're out on the West Coast in San Francisco, and you've been attending and showcasing at Colour Haiku, you said, since the beginning?
Yeah. Just outside of LA.
Outside of LA.
Pomona, but they moved it to downtown LA.
Yeah, so
Gallery.
Tell us about that, because, we are big fans of going to events that we can go and see the posters, meet the artists. And so this is an opportunity for fans of gig posters and musical art to go and, check out what you guys have.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible experience. Monk One heads it up, and he just does it so pro with all the promotion and the services and how much he takes care of all the artists involved and checks in with them, making sure they have what they need, following up with them. What can we do better next year? It just does everything so pro, and feels good to be so appreciated and taken care of. His dad grilled all this food for us, and that his brother brought in, just homemade brisket and stuff. So it was very good. So,
that's awesome.
That's a nice touch. But no, we just get to hang out there all day. People come in and get to see all our work. We meet tons of collectors and art fans and poster fans and music fans and people off the street, and whoever wants to come, just be curious to come check it out, meet the people behind it, and maybe snatch up some good work, that they might not be able to find elsewhere also.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing as an artist to attend an event like Colour Haiku?
For me, it's definitely the fellow artists and the camaraderie we have. It's a really great niche we've found ourselves in, where for the most part, everyone seems very supportive of each other. I can always reach out to pretty much any other gig poster artist I know if I have a question or curiosity about a band, maybe what it's like to work with this person or that band or this venue. And everyone's kind of at everyone's disposal for insight and to support each other and sort of lift all boats.
And would you say those in-person events are good at fostering that network, that get face-to-face with some of those artists and maybe build on that relationship a little bit?
For sure, yeah. You learn, first of all, just the technical stuff, like how to set up a booth and what kind of little clips you need and all these different things, right? Just that is a little daunting and scary at first. I don't know how to hang this up,
Right.
Are they going to be grid walls? Is it going to be drapery? Do I have to bring my own tent setup? What does that look like? So there's that specific stuff, but then there's just the kind of joking throughout the day, and then just it's a lot of social energy spent talking all day long with amazing people that come in and learn about the work. And so usually afterwards there's a gathering of different groups or everyone all together to kind of unwind, and usually those can go pretty late. And
yeah,
it's nice to really get to know everyone and socialize with all of our guards down and just kind of relax together and have a good time.
Share some war stories from the day.
Yeah.
Well, and that's awesome. And so if you're listening out there, April 25th, 2026 will be Colour Haiku at the GABA Gallery in downtown LA. Definitely go. If you're out in the area or you just feel like, hopping a plane to LA for the weekend, go check out Daryll and, a lot of other artists that are going to be out there, and check out their work. And speaking of work, one of the pieces that really caught my eye, and this is one of the things that I love most about the Best of the Tour podcast gives us the opportunity to engage with artists that, maybe aren't on our radar. Oftentimes we know artists because it's the band that we follow and the band that we listen to, but there's a lot of incredible music that we are, just outside of our purview or we hadn't been exposed to it yet. The Melvins poster that you did recently, it's
It was
called
back in April.
Yeah, it's the Smurftastic Melvins poster. And as children of the 80s, there is something that is like nostalgic, but also so fresh and new. It's got this feeling of like, again, the classic Smurfs, but then sort of like Garbage Pail Kids a little bit, kind of this like funky, grotesque, like, wait a minute, what would happen if?
And it's got a really kind of, I would say it takes Gargamel to the next level. Like, I mean, kind of, the things always alluded to as kids, like watching the cartoons Saturday mornings. And then there's this sort of shot of Gargamel. I think he's stirring in some type of either napalm or some type of evil toxic substance, and Smurfs and
poor
Smurf house being dipped in there. Yeah.
Poor Smurfette. She's like becoming this, where did that come from? Because it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's got this almost kind of comic book cover vibe too for it. It's like, where did your brain come up with that?
Thanks. Yeah, that one was, that was fun. That was one of those things where I was like, is this a good idea or is this the dumbest thing in the world until you kind of go through the motions of doing it? And it's definitely been, as far as like the social media thing is concerned, my biggest, whatever that word, viral, whatever, it went insane. Yeah, that blew up in a whole way that I haven't seen before. So people are a fan of Smurfs, apparently. Of course I was. It was always on too early for me, but occasionally I would catch it. It was like 7 a.m.
Yeah.
But it was a dual headlining. So it's Melvins and Napalm Death. So it's like, how do you give weight to both bands in a way that's also really fun? And at that time, the world was really, not that it's gotten better, but it was really depressing. And, I have my fine art world and these sort of things I get lost in, and like my own sort of artistic vision that I like to put out there and explore. But at this time I was like, I just want to draw some cartoons. I just want to like laugh and be happy and be silly and make a funny drawing, make some, Smurfs with their wieners and hanging out and boobs flapping around, and like these sort of like, misfit batch of Smurfs that, beyond the normal ones. So it started from that, just wanting to create something fun. And I just, I'm looking at it now, trying to remember all the different Smurfs I drew in there. But as like, we got, Smurfettes kind of being risen out of this thing, and a seance kind of like, arising out of this napalm death sort of magical cauldron stew that's like also boiling their mushroom homes, which was my son's idea actually, which I like. And Papa Smurf's melting in the goblet, and there's like Stony Smurf and little goat-legged devil Smurf, and the girl with the dress and with the red dress and the lipstick smeared around her. I call that hot mess Smurf. And there's like drunk Smurf, and I don't know. Yeah, just there's like the little cult leader Smurf, and my favorite wrapping around the corner is Kink Smurf. So and then you have Azrael he's got one in his mouth.
Yeah,
I think my favorite on the top left, you have Grouchy Smurf, just angry because he's in his little cage.
He's not getting to have any fun with anyone.
Yeah, but there's tons of little nuggets in this thing to find for sure.
Yeah,
and that part's really fun for me.
Yeah,
the two favorite nuggets that I saw was number one, the decomposing sort of skeleton of Papa Smurf in the cauldron. Where I was just like, man, that is dark. That is dark right there. And then the one you also mentioned was Azrael kind of shying or walking away with something in his mouth. And for those of us that have pets that have delivered us creatures from the outside, occasionally it's like, you really nailed it. We could totally see that Azrael doing that.
And the cat's always happy to show you its butt, right?
Right. So you got it.
As it's walking away.
But yeah, like you said, I saw this go viral. I mean, everybody, from Epic Problems to Richie Beckett to Todd Slater, everybody's blowing this thing up and saying, wow, what an incredible piece. And this thing is awesome. And well done and this rules. And so, I mean, aside from just the collector response, it just seems like the artist community too, this was really a fun one for everybody.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a little bit of a show and tell thing between us too. We always want to outdo ourselves and impress our buddies, right? Look at what I made. Hey, look what I made, and support each other. And
Yeah. Colour Haiku is back. Southern California's one-day marketplace for gig poster art, print culture, and the artists behind the work. This returns for its 4th year in a row, presented by Invisible Industries and hosted once again at GABA Gallery in the heart of Los Angeles. This is where the online obsession becomes real life. Go find top band posters for sale. You'll meet the artists who create the work face to face. Colour Haiku brings together established voices and emerging artists from across the region and beyond. A community that shows up to support independent artists, creative culture. If you've ever felt that rush at a show, if you've ever chased a limited edition poster drop online, this is where it all comes together. It's one day only, so don't miss it. This is Colour Haiku. Find the details at colorhaiku.com.
I'm a child of the 80s, so I love getting into this with artists. I've just found in talking with gig poster artists, it's amazing. Erica's like, she'll say, these guys, everybody's just like you. It's like, well, if we're of the same age and we grew up with cross-sell packaging of Masters of the Universe or Star Wars or whatever it was, or Smurf cartoons, like we're children of the 80s. It's kind of like a thing. And this, to your point, when the world gets heavy for whatever reason, right? We love nostalgia. We love these elements of our childhood, of simpler times, fun, colorful characters. So Smurfs is one. What any other threads from the 80s that were like passions of yours growing up?
yeah, you know what kind of kicked off this one, and I did a Melvins poster with Alvin and the Chipmunks before.
Yes.
Where instead of, Dave is yelling Melvins instead of Alvin.
Yeah.
And that one, it was just like a kind of harebrained idea. I think that was actually my wife's idea. And I started sketching it out, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I go, what am I doing here? But I had a blast with it. So I created the 3, bandmates of Melvins as each as Simon, Theodore, and Alvin, obviously.
Alvin and Theodore.
And that one just it became my most successful to date as far as like the response and people seeking it out. So I was like, okay, there's something here, and that's when I learned that people, like you were saying, love to tap into that nostalgia. And Melvins is my era, maybe slightly older, so who grew up with that around my age. And that is in the back of my mind with some of these, like, okay, what did we love? What did this age group of people and fans love, between 45 and 60 year olds, and which led to this. But a funny story about that Alvin and the Chipmunks one is, so I drew, oh gosh, what's his name? Anyway, the bassist for Melvins, he's an awesome guy, Steve, right? As Simon. And he goes, how did you know? And I go, how did I know what? He says, Simon is my wife's father or grandfather. And I was like, what do you mean? He's a squirrel or a chipmunk? I don't get this. He said, no, Alvin and the Chipmunks were named after the head of the record label. Was Alvin, Theodore, Ted, and Simon. And Simon was his wife's dad or grandfather. And I was like, whoa, what a serendipitous kismet moment. And he texted his whole family thread right there. He's like, look at this.
Oh,
and
wow.
How kind of magical that I happened to pick him for that role too. It was really cool. Yeah,
like you said, you just kind of had this idea, right? It came to you, and there was some reason, something out there in the universe that did it. You could have gone the other way and leaned into it and told him, I go really deep on the research when I take on a project.
Yeah. And they're such iconic characters, everyone in the band, that you can kind of just put little identifiers on each chipmunk that really relates to each one. So the band loved it.
Are they an active kind of participant in the creation process of their posters?
No, but with Melvins and a lot of the bands I work with, they don't see it till I deliver it.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty fun. Yeah. And a lot of trust there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some bands obviously have a lot more creative input
Mhm.
or steps along the way, but they're always just like, wow, look at what this, surprise, look what this crazy guy made this time. So it's really fun. And I, yeah, I really value that they trust the
Mhm.
artists and their weird sort of visions.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to have kind of like guidance of like ideas of poster, like, hey, I want you to have maybe this type of iconography? Or are you much more comfortable with like, just give us ideas and we're up for whatever?
I think as far as comfortable goes, it's much easier to be given an idea to go with,
Hmm.
to be limited in that way, or to be told like 3 colors max, like, okay, that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But to have whatever you want, man, is is a little scary and daunting,
Yeah.
but it's obviously the most fun once you
Hmm.
dial in on something. Yeah.
What in kind of like maybe your past year collective that you've created, what do you feel like was your like most exciting and fun output? If you could pick one poster to be like, this was really just, I feel like I just hit the nail on the head when it came to the artistry or, whatnot.
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm there's like the first one you made, that
Mm-hmm.
was a really great feeling. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
this. I finally did this. And then, each one along the way, I've really pushed myself. So until I mail one in, which I hope to never do, I would say the last one I did, whatever.
We
That
follow a
made
band that
me,
we love and we talk a lot about like, the music when each show you go to is like the best show that you've been to. And that's
yeah,
what that kind of reminds me of. It's sort of like every next poster that you do is like the best next poster that you do.
yeah, yeah. And
Now,
I've learned a lot through the process too of silk screening, working with my
Mhm.
my printers, because I have silk screened a lot of my past posters, but I cannot get nearly the quality that these guys could do. They're like the best in the country, in my opinion. And so I work back and forth with them. They teach me how to make, you know, 24, 28 colors out of 6, how to use transparencies to overlap it. Each poster gets technically better, I'd say,
Okay.
or I'm able to explore um, a more variety of colors and such as I learned how to work with the transparencies better.
I saw
But
you did an incredible piece back in August for Primus, and this is
yeah,
totally a different vibe, a different style, if you will, than the classic '80s cartoon. This had a little bit more. Where did this come from? Kind of feel to it, you know?
yeah, I got the little Southwest vibe. It's in Arizona, and I was thinking about, man, I going to a show in August in Arizona. That sounds really hot.
Yeah,
And so I kind of went with the desert vibe, and I think there's a little bit of, now that I look back on it, a little Stranger Things sort of thing, like
Oh
the way
yeah.
I was
yeah,
envisioning that, like cacti and succulents and this sort of like star-shaped succulent opening up and making like a really good cool face. And I think that's kind of like that, whatever, the monster,
Yeah,
the
the Demogorgon.
Demogorgon from and
yeah.
I don't know. I think that entered in there somewhere.
Yeah,
But I started looking
spoiler.
at plant life and like, oh, that would make a cool knee. That would make a cool
Yeah.
face. That would make a cool. And so I started to think of this giant cactus monsters tromping through, kind of like a cartoony
Canyon.
classic Southwestern desert
Mhm.
scene, and tons of other little nuggets and stuff to find in there also. That's the most joy, is like, oh, this is hilarious. I'll put this little tiny thing here, little nods to the band or lyrics, or, really diving in. And there's a lot to find in there.
That's something from like the fan collector side that we love. Like at least
Yeah.
I can
The Easter
the
eggs.
Easter
Yeah,
eggs, like I could talk on
Yeah.
behalf of Mike and I, like that is one of the most fun things that we do as collectors. We'll sit with the piece, we'll get it from the show, and there's always that memory that's tied to it in the event, and that's really awesome and fun. But like the magic of a really good print is when you kind of keep going back to it and you're like, I didn't see that before. Where's that?
Yeah.
well, especially it's such sort of like a whirlwind. Like if you're at the show, if that's where you grab it, or even if you see it come up and you're fortunate enough to snag one on an artist's AP drop, right? A lot of times it's
Yeah.
like a quick exchange. Like you're just trying to hustle through either the physical poster line
Mhm.
or the digital "don't let me get cart jacked" world, right? And it's sort of like transact, get it, and then if you're physically on site, roll it up and tuck it away somewhere safe, either your tube that you've taken or one of the ones they provide. And if you're ordering online, you might be waiting a week or whatnot till you get it. And until you then roll it out in person, it's a different feel from the chaos or the digital image. And then you get that chance to digest and start. And like Erica said, we'll go back, we'll walk by a piece in our house and it's like, I never noticed that before.
Yeah.
I think as the collector, as the consumer, it's additional value to just relive that memory, relive that experience, but to be able to sit with a piece and see something that you hadn't seen or experienced before. So I think for you, like adding those Easter eggs in, they are delivering a little extra sauce to the collector.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of something working really well from far away, but equally good right close up, right? So from far away, it's powerful, it's impactful, but then you get up close and you notice tiny little details, whatever that may be, in my fine art, my painting, but also in my posters. So, far away, like you're saying at the merch booth, you pretty much just make out the general vibe of the poster and the title, but then you get home and you can sit there and really inspect it and laugh and have a good time.
Now, with the fine art background and painting, is that the medium you're using to create gig posters, or are you using a different medium?
So I'm kind of a dinosaur as far as my technique. It's all pen and ink, but I mean, I work through sketches and I'm using tracing paper, each sort of like, tracing over my last drawing, making adjustments, kind of like the way a tattoo artist works. And then going into a final inking. So I have a good amount of these final pen and ink sometimes brush or often brush, but yeah, black and white drawings essentially. And then I bring it in and create the different layers of color, usually with Photoshop. But I'm sitting here in Photoshop, which I'm pretty good at, but with a mouse and it takes forever. So that's something I'm working on. Yeah. I got my Wacom now and I have someone gave me an iPad and I got Procreate. So I'm trying to get a little more digital, at least for the color work. I'll always do pen to paper, ink and brush, but just for my own satisfaction. But I'm trying. I had a group of college kids come in and I was explaining sort of like some of the process and showing them the work. And when I told them I did this all with all the color work with the mouse, there was like audible gasps. Like, oh God, okay. Time to learn this, I guess.
How many hours?
Well, how do you balance that, right? Because gig poster, it can take time, right? You sometimes are on a timeline from the artist for delivery, but like, how do you balance sort of the multi kind of professional pieces of your life? You've got your fine arts, murals, and then gig work and balancing life. Like, how does that day-to-day look for you? And where do you find those sort of moments to kind of get inspired, or is life inspiring the art?
Yeah. Every day is chaos. Every day is different. And every day is usually I'm in reactionary mode where I'm just doing whatever is immediately needed at the time. So it's hard to get those moments to plan and think of a better way to do things like I'm trying to do now, the digital stuff. But it's a balance, I was going to say, but it's never in balance. It's just constantly juggling and trying to give each area of my life and my passions attention. And, it's one of the downsides of having a lot of interests and ways of sort of sharing yourself and your emotions is, I love painting. I love doing murals. I love drawing. I love the gig poster world. I also have to do a lot of like graphic design kind of stuff for money when I need it. And I love volunteering and helping people so they don't have to pay a ton of money to have some ad firm do something. I like, I don't know, and then I'm a dad too. So I'm juggling, two awesome kids and it's a lot. It's a lot. So I would just say, what gets me up every day and gets me going is, responsibility. I think honestly, if I didn't have to get kids to school and all that stuff, I think I would probably just be a pile for about 3 or 4 days and then be super inspired to do stuff. But I just always want to be creating. And I do get a little not bored, but I just I leap around a lot. I just get a little if I'm drawing too much, I was like, oh, I want to work on this other project, or I want to make some stickers, or I want to, hey, I want to go paint on a wall. I want to use my whole body to paint instead of like sitting at this little desk with my all hunched over all day. I have a little shiny thing syndrome. Like, ooh, look at that over there. I'm going to go do that now for a while. So
That's
it's a
really
curse
unique.
and also fun.
Yeah, that's unique. I mean, I think we talk to a lot of artists who kind of are very like singularly focused. They're like, I'm a gig poster artist, but as I start getting to know everybody and we start talking to artists, like there are so many different things that you guys can do, want to do, and then it's finding the time. It's finding like the time to focus and be able to give 100% in every kind of corner. That's really hard.
Yeah. Well, and I think that shiny object syndrome that you talked about, that's a mark of a visionary, right? And there's this entrepreneurial side of being, right, individual, having your own art studio, putting together your own sort of projects. And so that tracks for me and makes sense to go hand in hand. But that sort of jumping from project to project, I imagine that's part of the creative spark too, right? It's probably
always
necessary
needing
fuel.
something new. A new challenge, once something gets easy for me or it's a formula, I'm so bored and I'm done.
Yeah.
And which is terrible business because it's like you figured it out, the hard part's over. Now just turn it on and go. But it's like at that moment I lose all interest. It's like, okay, go get somewhere uncomfortable again. And I think that's a good quality, but it's terrible for business. The way our world works, it's really smart to focus all in on one thing. It's people really love something they can sort of identify and sort of put into a box. It's such a dumb metaphor, but just be able to always know what they're going to get from that person or something. Like you look at, let's say, like an Instagram feed and all the sort of photos look similar. You're like, oh, I get the whole vibe. I like this. And those seem to be the most successful. But I'm like, here's this crazy thing I made. Here's this crazy thing in my, whatever, whenever I get around to sharing stuff, it's this hodgepodge of this patching together of some sort of creative life.
We try to live like with our feet on the ground in the real world, but obviously we live in our little tiny phones and connect with people on a regular basis. And there's definitely like the great things that come out of social media and the great things that come out of the connections that we make, and then we take them offline. And I know that you had kind of mentioned there is kind of that struggle to be so in your face, like social media and sort of the algorithm as a whole, it forces you to constantly be on it so that people can consume what's on that app. But the reality is like we still have to put our feet in the grass and connect human to human. And I think that that's really important now with everything that's going on in the world. Like art is so important. Connection with humans in the real world is so important. The way that I look at like the gig poster art or like art in general is just, it is an expression of what is going on in the world, and it's the creative output that like gets either pen on paper or paint on a canvas. And so do you feel that sometimes you're inspired by like, or do you just need to use it to kind of escape and check out and be like, I just need to get the things that are going on in my brain out onto something tangible?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of an escapist artist. Right, I would not call it a safe space, but a space to go to.
We
that
saw what happened to Papa Smurf.
Control.
It was not, Papa Smurf was not safe. Daryll,
well, my way is like spending time diving inside your head is scary.
Yeah.
There's lots of distraction from that to keep you sort of from looking inward and what may or may not be there, or all those fears. And it's work. It's hard to get like excited to go like confront all of your issues and turn it into something visual to put out in the world and get like feedback on those issues or like whatever's going through. That's a lot of emotions to run through. Yeah. And I would say, in an ever sort of digitizing world, we can get into AI and all that in a little bit, but just seeing that like human hand and human touch gives people some sort of, they can relate to it. They can feel good about it. We're still making things. People are still, they care. We're creating. we're not just consuming and adapting to this world. Like we can still make things human and relate to each other on that level.
I think that's something that's hard to do on a day-to-day basis. I like have to be an active participant and remind myself, I mean, we're the same way. We've got two awesome kids and we both work full time, and we podcast and we go to music and we go to shows, and that's the opportunity for us to then like take it offline and to just be in the here and the now. And that's the magic of the poster art, is that's then brought home, and that like energy is still there. The energy of the show that you saw, the people that you saw, the hugs, the music, the buzz after you take your earplugs out after the show and you're like, man, that was so good.
Well, and it's legit given, at least us, right? I mean, we're such a small sample size, but it's given us enough like fuel and passion and just sort of content that we created 2 podcasts out of it. So somehow it was from those experiences of standing in the poster line and making friends, some of whom have become what feels like lifelong friends now, and then catching up with people and, the aftermarket community of, buyers and traders and sellers. And I'm really excited for some of these. I mean, Colour Haiku is one of those that's on our bucket list to get to one of these days, but to come and interact with, the artists and the collectors and just continue that community and talking about it. I think, like Erica said, it's an extension of those experiences that we go to, the shows that we love, whatever band you're into out there in pod listening world, whoever it is that you listen to. I mean, you found your people, right?
Yeah.
Part of, I would say, like they say in G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle, but like half the battle or half the secret sauce, I think, of going to shows is this community that gets built with the people through the merch lines, through the poster lines, tailgating in parking lots, waiting to get into the venue and get a good spot. Mm-hmm. Hey, will you hold my space while I go and use the John or grab a Pepsi or whatever it might be, or Coke? I mean, better.
I was surprised that you went with that one.
I was just free flowing. Pepsi came out for some reason, and I'm a Coca-Cola guy, but not sponsored.
No,
but would be sponsored if you're open to it.
Hey, Coca-Cola.
But yeah, I don't know where I was going fully with that, other than just that it's bigger than those just the items on the wall. Like there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there's a story behind everyone for sure. And if nothing else, it ties you in visually with the sound of the band. Or if you actually, at the show, then the specific memories you have being there.
Yeah. Now, is that something you plug into, Daryll, when you're doing a piece for maybe a band that you're not as familiar with? Do you go and listen to some of their catalog to try to get a flavor?
Absolutely.
Does it expose you to new sounds?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with a few bands where I didn't know who they were, and I always become a fan because I learn the struggles, what they went through to get to where they were. I've never worked with bands like, oh, those guys suck. Not in that way, like they were all jerks or something like that. You know what I mean? It's always kind of opening yourself up sometimes to something new, something that might not be your thing, but you can appreciate it on a different level.
If you're like me and Erica, you love passing out stickers while attending concerts with friends, making new friends. Where do you get these stickers? Look no further than stickerrobot.com. They are renowned for the highest quality sticker printing on the planet, world famous, custom outdoor silkscreen sticker printing, free US shipping, and we have a promo for you. If you visit stickerrobot.com/invisible, you will receive 10% off your next high quality screen printed sticker order. So act fast.
Going right now.
Right now.
Right now. And also, thanks to our friends over at the Rock Poster Society. If you don't know TRPS, they are a nonprofit behind the world's longest-running rock poster collection shows. That includes the Festival of Rock Posters in San Francisco, which is a bucket list thing for Mike and I to go to. They have been championing the art of poster for decades. They support both the artists and those people who collect them and preserve them. If you want to get involved, go over to trps.org if you want to become a member and check out their upcoming events.
Check them out. Is there anybody out there in the band world that you haven't worked with? It's sort of like a dream project, or like if you had to do the David Letterman's top 10 list, like you'd put them right up there near the top or so.
Oh man, that's one of those things. They're like, tell me a word that starts with D, and you're like, I can't think of anyone. I don't know. Um, yeah, there's plenty of those. I did have one opportunity slip through with Metallica, which
Oh wow.
as a band, it would be cool to work with a band at that scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, with that kind of legacy. You know, I was a pretty giant fan of their first few albums. I can tap back into that young
Mm-hmm.
Daryll pretty well, and a lot of inks and stuff there. But that just came top to mind because
Mm-hmm.
that was like a close one, and I think that the tour didn't happen. It might have been COVID. I can't remember, but honestly, there's lots of little smaller bands I just would really love to work with, and
Mm-hmm.
I just need to reach out to, and like you're talking about, like instead of just react to everything, actually do the work to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm here. I just need to take that time to
Maybe
do that.
that's a 2026 goal
Yeah,
for you
yeah,
to say, hey, you know what? Maybe this year I'll reach out to one. You know, we talk
yeah,
about this like with our kids. And I think you were talking about this concept of like, we just kind of want things like people want things like immediate. They want them in the box. They want to have something that's reliable, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, we live in this world where it's like, I can pick up my phone and I can order anything I want from my phone immediately and I can get it here same day sometimes. And I'm trying to, you know, as parents to try to teach our kids to like savor the moment or like the waiting, the desire to wait for something or the anticipation.
Yeah. I tell them all the time, it's okay to be bored.
Yeah.
I hear that, you know, I'm so
oh yeah,
bored.
it's so important. It's
It's a
so
good thing.
important.
Be bored and
Mhm.
Yeah.
then go create something. Go draw. Go use your markers, paint, do something.
And, you
Yeah,
know,
it's usually for me, it's a fight. It's like
mm,
a half an hour to an hour of just like begging to use iPads and whatnot. And then finally they realize and accept that they have to do something. And every single time they create something amazing, that
Yeah.
blows me away. You know, like, oh, look at you used your creativity and you did this thing, you know,
Pretty
or they picked up
awesome.
a musical instrument or whatever it is. So,
mhm.
but yeah, allowing your brain to sort of daydream, to think, to sort of turn off the noise and find a way to explore something just with your mind is
Mhm.
pretty powerful. You know, I had a lot of time growing up alone, a lot of alone time. Or I'd be at my mom's office where all there was like a photocopier and some pens and paper and that little monster teeth thing that you used to
Oh
pull
yeah,
out
Oh
a
yeah, the
the
staple.
staple
Got a
paper
lot of use
remover. I
out
know
of
that
that.
guy.
And
Yep.
I would just learn, so I would just draw and draw and draw and
Mhm.
do weird like stories on the photocopier with my face and coloring it in and doing, you know, just you figure out a way. And I think that it's really easy to just be entertained,
Mhm.
uh, but it's pretty fun once you tap into that
Right on.
creativity.
Without like, I mean, putting you on the total spot, and because you have so many things that you do, and you're very a busy person and professional, do you have things that you love to do in your downtime? You know, is there downtime? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, you know, I play
What's
music.
downtime? Music.
I've played guitar mediocrely for 30 something years. I love playing music, but
Yeah.
it's never gonna, you know, it's not gonna be my career. I just do it for fun.
Yeah.
My son's into it now, so we jam pretty good together. And like I've been skateboarding my whole life, breaking a lot of bones doing that. That's a real big passion still. It gets harder. I'm
Yeah.
getting up there. But yeah, snowboarding, surfing. I've been surfing a lot again this year. I took
Oh,
a little
very.
break. I don't know. I swim, just swimming. I swim
Yeah.
in the bay every week. I go for did that swam from Alcatraz a few times.
Oh,
So,
you
you know, I
did
just
that.
do
Whoa.
some things. Yeah, there's so much out there, you know. I
That's
go to shows,
amazing.
I hang out with the family. I mean, yeah, a huge part of my world, your world too, is, you know, running kids to volleyball and watching their games and soccer and music lessons and Rubik's Cube
All the things.
championships and you know, all of it. It's so much. And
As
and then also like seeing what they like and trying to do that with them a little bit. Like, all
oh
right, this
yeah.
is new. Teach me how to do a Rubik's Cube, kid. You know, yeah.
Hey. And that's a
What
cool thing to
speed Rubik's
oh
cube
my
or they
god.
Yeah, he's a speed cuber. Yeah, he's down to 9 seconds.
Wow. That's world record breaking
that's
level type stuff.
Yeah,
when I
he's
was a kid, it was just a frustrating puzzle that you would just try to then take the stickers off and rearrange them because you could never get it done. My dad was,
everyone I knew someone that had one or had
yeah,
one, but I never knew a single kid that did it or could do it.
yeah.
There was
They just
only
sat on the
always
shelf.
one.
It was my dad. He was the
Your
one that
dad
could do
figured
it.
it out.
He could do it. Yeah.
Nice.
But he
Your
wasn't a
dad.
speed. He wasn't a speed guy. It was just.
But
it was
he didn't have YouTube either. You know, my son went
This is
deep
true.
into
This
yeah.
is true.
He really, really
No
figured
cell
it
phone.
out.
No, there was no PDA attached to your body all the time. So
Yeah.
the fidget. I guess the Rubik's Cube is probably like one of the original fidgets.
Yeah, it functions for him that way. He's always just kind of doing that while he watches a movie or does whatever he's doing.
I wanted to get some information out to our listeners, Daryll, while we have a chance of where they can find you. We've talked at length about a couple of pieces, namely the Melvins sort of homage to the Smurfdom. And I came across your website when we were talking, and then it linked me to your store on Etsy. And at least as of the recording, there are still some copies of that print available in regular edition, magical glitter edition, which sounded awesome. And then my favorite with the white lava foil AP. That sounds epic. But real quick, where can our listeners find you and check out some of these available prints?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my website is fairly not much there right at the moment. That's on that to-do list. And along with that, a store. But for now, I do have an Etsy shop. You can go to my website. It's just my name, DarylPeirce.com, spelled awfully, DarylPeiRce. It's a nightmare. It's my curse. Anything I've ever done, it's been misspelled. But so pretty easy to find. You can just Google me or whatever. But Instagram, I'd say, is where I put the most recent stuff. So that's probably the best place to find me. Yeah.
Okay, right on.
And what do you have?
At my name, because no one else has that spelling. Yeah.
And so we've got Colour Haiku coming up at the end of April. Where else are you excited to be, or anything that you can share that coming out late spring, early summer?
Yeah. In the poster world, I'm not actively working on a poster right now, but I think there's a couple of things coming down the pike, and I'm a sort of don't jinx yourself person, so I don't like to really talk about it, because then if it doesn't get materialized, then I just feels like I did it to myself. So the poster world, can't really speak to the specific bands I'm working with right now, but after Colour Haiku, there will be a TRPS show in the summer, I believe in June. At a really fun brewery in Alameda, California. I do that every year. It's a great scene, really great scene. It's called Faction Brewing, is where it is.
Cool.
And then I will be doing their fall, annual big fall show in Golden Gate Park. That's usually in October.
Yeah.
So that's as far as gig posters go. I have some art shows coming up. I show with this gallery called 111 Minna. I have some work going up there soon. I had a sizable show that just came down from there. A new little tiny gallery there, a satellite gallery they're opening called 111 Mini.
Ooh.
Another gallery here called Modern Eden. I'll have some work in there very soon. So yeah, just a lot of gallery work.
Awesome.
Fun galleries I work with.
If you're out on the West Coast in this kind of San Francisco Bay Area, absolutely check out Daryll's art shows, gallery exhibtions.
And some of these meetups for trips. They're incredible opportunities to go out and check out some work, meet the artists.
It is so inspiring. There's so much incredible work from these artists. It is equally inspiring as it is humbling. You go in there and be like, oh, wow. Everyone's just like putting their best work out there all the time. And it's such a cool scene, just come out and just to see what it's about, entice your eyeballs for a little while.
Bring your doll hairs, as we say, and, come support the artist.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Well, Daryll, this is we're just so grateful to have the opportunity to take the time to get to know you a little bit better, to share some stories. We love having conversations like this that get a little bit deeper, that peel back the curtain, so to speak, on the person who is creating the art, and giving the opportunity for listeners and fans to get to know you guys a little bit better. So thank you so much for coming on Best of the Tour. We can't wait to see what's coming up for you in kind of all ways, shapes, and forms. And would love to have you back on if you got some good stuff coming in the works. Do you want to come talk more about how to balance being a human? That's what we're trying to figure out
thank you.
here.
No, I love nothing better than a good ramble. So thanks
Same here. Well, thanks, Daryll, so much. It was really great to connect with you. And
to all our listeners out there, thank you again for tuning in. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, your family, your neighbors, anybody you know that likes the gig poster scene. And we will catch you next time on Best of the Tour. Best of the Tour is presented by Invisible Industries. Find us at www.bestofthettour.com and on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. You can also catch Erica and Mike on their other podcast, Posters in Every Direction, streaming wherever you stream your podcasts from. A big thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.